You know, for the last couple of hours, I've been kind of time travelling. Well, sort of wandering around in foreign parts, about anything from sort of like nearly 2,000 years ago to 3,000 years ago. And I've done this by having a look at the Bible, and absolutely fascinating stuff in there, and lots of people's good thoughts, and some of which we would take issue with, and some which we would not. And I'm speaking, of course, as a spiritualist and a Christian spiritualist. And I was fascinated by Paul's letter to the Romans. And he was talking a bit about himself. And it's rare, isn't it, really, to get personal glimpses of people who are have been really spiritual and spiritually inspired. They tend to hold forth about matters of that kind without referring to their own experience, or very little. So it's very interesting to get their personal insights. And Paul was talking about how he himself wrestled with his physical desires, his physicality, and trying to equate that, balance it up with what he knew to be his spirit. And of course, as spiritualists, we know that of course we're both, and that in the physical, down here in the world, we are physical beings with our spirit within, and we are here to learn all about that physical life, and of course whatever it deals us. And none of us are unscathed. We all have personal problems that we could air, we could talk about. And it was very good that it gets you sort of closer to somebody, doesn't it? I was sympathising with him, but I would like to have given him a lecture from our spiritualist point of view, to have perhaps eased his upset and distress that comes through about him trying to balance his spirit life with his physical life. And you know, sympathies for him, as we have for each other and ourselves. But what I didn't like to hear was, I was told today that lots of people who call themselves, or are assumed to be spiritualists, say things like, oh, well, people attract bad things to themselves, which is absolute poppycock. Nobody attracts bad things to themselves. We get bad things happen to us because we're here on the earth plane, and that's what goes on. Whether it's something that we've contributed to, or are completely innocent of anything, and we just get attacked by something or other, or even attacked by people when we haven't attacked them. We certainly don't draw anything of that to ourselves. A bit like the old chestnut that women who are in violent relationships actually either like it or attract it to themselves. Absolute. Never mind. But yeah, so Paul was talking about his problems of balancing his spirit, that he understood very much about, with his physical being. And then we hear also something personal in John Wesley's journal. Talks about his own personal occurrences and so on. and lots of the Bible deal with such matters, and here and there we get personal bits and bobs come in. So yes, I was kind of there I was really wandering about with Paul in my own mind, and listening to what he had to say, just as surely as if he'd written me a letter yesterday. It was that fresh. And I was also interested in reading his letter in Romans chapter 8, if you're interested. There are passages that he wrote in that letter that we use in our ordination service. That's the New Christian Spiritualist Society. And that's amazing. And how he actually managed to drag himself out of his slough of despond about his own personal situations and rise above that is a lesson to all of us, because he says but if we hope for what is still unseen by us, we wait for it with patience and composure. So he's telling us that's what we have to do. And so too the Spirit comes to our aid and bears us up in our weakness, for we do not know what prayer to offer, nor how to offer it worthily as we ought. But the Spirit himself goes to meet our supplication and pleads in our behalf with unspeakable yearnings. And he who searches the hearts of men knows what is in the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes and pleads on behalf of the saints according to and in harmony with God's will. We are assured and know that God, being a partner in their labour, all things work together and are fitting into a plan for good to and for those who love God and are called according to his design and purpose. And then it goes on, you see, and that's, we've used that in our ordination ceremony, because Paul says, for those whom he foreknew, of whom he was aware and loved beforehand. So there you are in the spirit world, you see, before they came here, before we come here, we live in the spirit world. He also destined from the beginning, foreordaining them to be moulded into the image of his Son and share inwardly his likeness, that he might become the firstborn among many brethren. And those whom he thus foreordained he also called, and those whom he called he also justified. And it's just wonderful, isn't it? Just think, Paul was given that revelation that God knows us before we come here. And also there are our pathways that could have been preordained. So, you know, some people would consider that predestination is unproven, but we know that there are fixed points in our life's pathway, and however we arrive at those fixed points, they are apparently fixed. And so Paul was talking about that, and I think that's absolutely fascinating. And as I said, it felt to me as if he was talking to me today about that, not 1960 years ago, something like that, or 1970 years ago. So it was just amazing to sort of come back from that and think, well, I shall go on to this, amazing thingamabob where we do our communication in this 21st century, and talk to you about a letter that was written to a church that had been founded in Rome by Paul, and also to think that it actually is something that we chose as our society's ordination service, part of it. So I think that's really, really lovely. And do have a look in the Bible, because you know, there's lots in it that you'll take issue with, I'm sure. As I do, you know, there's lots of question marks. I'd love to actually ask him questions and discuss and debate some of those things that he says that, of course, we must take issue with. But there's so much that's of great interest to us, and we understand as spiritualists. I think what is very nice as well, he says, now, he's saying, do not be conformed to this world or this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, so that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God, even the thing which is good and acceptable and perfect. So it's just really, really nice. Oh, I must put this one in. He says, by the grace given to me, I warn everyone among you not to estimate and think of himself more highly than he ought, but to rate his ability with sober judgment, each according to the degree of faith apportioned by God to him. And he says, for as in one physical body we have many parts, and all of these parts do not have the same function or use, so we, numerous as we are one body. We are parts one of another, and having gifts, faculties and talents and qualities that differ according to the grace given us, let us use them. He whose gift is prophecy, let him prophesy according to the proportion of his faith. And he whose gift is practical service, let him give himself to serving. He who teaches, to teaching. And he who exalts, encourages to his exaltation. He who contributes, let him do it in simplicity and liberality. He who gives aid and superintends with zeal and singleness of mind. He who does acts of mercy with genuine cheerfulness and joyful eagerness. And let your love be sincere, a real thing, and hate what is evil, but hold fast to that which is good. Now that, hold fast to that which is good, on a personal note, was my old school motto, honesta obtinete. And of course, these letters to the Romans, they were mostly Jewish Romans that he was writing to, but I'm sure that they would have spoken Latin very easily, and I'm sure that you can take your pick about what language they may have read and listened and discussed this letter in. So, you know, I started off by talking about superstition and what's superstitious and what isn't. And the fact is that bad things happen. Disappointments happen, both personally and on a wider field of experience, like the football result that England got the other night. Everybody was very disappointed and probably ran a gamut of emotions there. But equally, you know, within our own lives, we have to deal with that very, very often. And what I like is this other, I'll quote you this now, again, now this is going back, what, 3,000 years, to Deuteronomy. It's an early book of the Bible. And in Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 6 it says, be strong and of a good courage, fear not, nor be afraid, for the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee, he will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. So it doesn't matter how dreadful anything gets, you know, on whatever sliding scale that is throughout your life, you can be sure that you are being cared for by that great spirit. And it's very interesting as well that I'd like to read you this little bit from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "The timid it concerns to ask their way, and fear what foe in caves and swamps can stray, to make no step until the event is known, and ills to come as evils past bemoan. Not so the wise. No coward watch he keeps, to spy what danger on his pathway creeps. Go where he will, the wise man is at home, his hearth the earth, his hall the azure dome. Where his clear spirit leads him, there's his road, by God's own light illumined and foreshowed." There, you see. So we just have to trust and know that we will be all right. If you think about it, we're sitting here now contemplating all the terrible things that may have happened to us, including England's score, in the past. And here we are. Like I said, today for a couple of hours, I've been living in the past. But equally, I feel that it's now, here and now. So here and now, we are able to say we've come through this. And like those wonderful words of Amazing Grace, you know, you have kept me safe thus far, and your grace will lead me home. You know, the fact is this, that we have come this far. And so whatever has ailed you in the past, you have got over. If you are still ailing, know that you are loved, that God is with you for sure, just the same as he was with everybody before now, with you before now and everybody else before now. So, you know, we just have to keep hold of that lovely thought that God is with us. Spirit is all around us. The fact that we can't remember much about, if anything, about being in the world of spirit before we got here, is probably just as well, because a lot of us have decided that when we get back there, we're going to have a few words about what we signed up for. You know, talk about these fixed points that we couldn't escape. And just to know that if you're facing anything really dreadful, whatever it is, know that God is with you, that God allows his angelic helpers to get close to you. They hear your prayers and your requests, and they will act upon that. And if you are facing a surgeon's knife, ask your guides and helpers to guide that knife, make it accurate, and everything will be well, you see. So I can assure you that's the truth. Talking about personal revelations, you know, I've had enough sort of operations and things, and you have to pray and ask for the best, not just for everybody else, but for yourself at such times, and those prayers will be heard. Remember, Paul even wrote about it there, you see, if you remember that. What we like to do, of course, is sort of pick something for ourselves, I'll take this book and I shall just ask them upstairs to give us a reading for ourselves. What should we find? Do you know, I found something by Charlotte Bronte and George Eliot, and we're saying here in Matthew, "Judge not that ye be not judged." Well, of course, that's you know, that's very, very important. And George Eliot says, "While we are coldly discussing a man's career, sneering at his mistakes, blaming his rashness, and labelling his opinions evangelical and narrow, or latitudinarian and pantheistic, or Anglican and supercilious, that man in his solitude is perhaps shedding hot tears because his sacrifice is a hard one, because strength and patience are failing him to speak the difficult word and do the difficult deed." Wow. that's something to think about, isn't it? So that's something for us to think on. I can just say that I hope that you yourself have got some nice things to think about this day. If you fancy a time travel, open ye old Bible, have a look through that. You know, just find any page. I never recommend it for people actually who want messages for themselves, because usually get told off. The prophets particularly, you always get told off by the prophets. You know, they were the people that sort of went the length and breadth of Israel, you know, telling everybody off. You know, I hope that you've enjoyed our little chat, and I would like to end with a prayer. Dear Lord, we ask you this day for comfort and healing for ourselves and for those we love. For all those who have nobody to pray for them, we ask you to give them the benefit of your love and comfort and easement of their ills. We ask you especially, dear Lord, for all those innocent souls, the animal kingdom of this planet, that they may be allowed to flourish and live as they were meant to. And we ask also, dear Lord, this time for all the children, that they may be given the light of your love and know that they are all the same under one great Spirit, the Lord of light and love and truth. Amen. There. I'll speak with you again soon, I expect. Bye for now. God bless you.